Hey folks, Mike and Jake again. I had a customer yesterday that, and I don't hear this so often anymore. I used to hear it a lot, but he's like, "Oh, I don't know about those newer engines. There's a lot of extra stuff you have to do to it and stuff." And like I said, I haven't heard that in a while. You hear it less and less because the new engines they're great. They're proven. I mean, not just ours. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that have figured out how to do it and do it well. But under 25 actual horsepower, the federal government does not require much in the way of emissions. So they save, and you would save a bunch of money if you can, if you could use 25 horsepower.
Yeah.
Anything above that, though, does require emissions from the government. But two completely different engines, and anyway, I know what I know, but I don't know what Jake knows. So I asked him to do a little walk around, just kind of show you where some of the bells and whistles, where the fluorinated Zorch is, and stuff like that. So take a look.
All right, folks, like Mike was talking about, we do have some customers nowadays that do get a little concerned about emission systems. Truthfully, there is nothing to worry about as long as you know how to properly run your equipment. Now, like Mike was saying, anything under 25 horses, you're going to get something looking a little simpler like this with not much on it. You've got basic engine.
Do you get a hood?
You do get a hood. Hoods are not optional. They do come standard. We took this one off just to give you a good look at what's under it.
In fact, Kioti calls it a
bonnet.
A bonnet. we don't have hoods on our tractors. We have bonnets.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, he suggested taking it off because it makes sense. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
But this is a much simpler engine. It's actually a mechanical engine and runs off a fuel cam on the engine itself instead of a traditional high pressure pump off of all the gears. Your injection pump's down here. It comes up to your 3 injectors and returns back to your injection pump. That's your injection system on here. Tried and true. Why change it if it works?
Yeah. Other than it's dirty and loud.
For a couple seconds, but then it's going to smooth right out. It might smoke for that 2 seconds. Don't fear white smoke on these engines. White smoke is just indicative of a cold engine or maybe a slight lack of air. Once it warms up, you're in good shape. Even has an air grid heater to help heat the air into the engine to give you better initial combustion.
And of course, glow plugs.
Absolutely. Glow plugs are a must on any diesel, especially a mechanical one. The glow cycles on these do typically run a little longer because they are mechanical injection and don't fire off as smoothly or easily as our common rail counterpart.
We talk about glow plugs. We say, oh, it's got glow plugs. But what if you don't know what a glow plug is? What is a glow plug?
So, for people who don't know what a glow plug is, diesels are not like gas engines. They don't require ignition via spark. Diesels run off of strictly heat and compression. So, if you have a cold engine, you don't have that heat to get your initial ignition to start everything up. So what your glow plugs do is they'll kick on momentarily, and on most of these are on a timer, and they'll usually run for about 4 to 6 seconds on a single cycle. And what that does is it preheats the cylinder to where once you go to crank it, you have a little heat in the engine, you get quicker detonation of your fuel, and it starts more easily. There's 1 glow plug per cylinder, so this is a 3-cylinder. There are 3 glow plugs on this. If you go up to the RX or HX, you do have 4, 1 per cylinder, and it's to heat each individual cylinder.
And they last a long time, yes?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Rarely do people ever come in looking for glow plugs. Honestly, the main reason people change glow plugs is because something got in there, started chewing at wires, somebody tried to remove it, and somehow they broke it trying to remove it. I've rarely seen glow plugs fail. Kioti does use Bosch glow plugs, so it is a reputable manufacturer that makes reputable parts. Everybody knows Bosch for their electrical components. They make good stuff.
No kidding. What else you got on that, hanging off that engine? In case somebody doesn't know, just, like, where's the fuel filter, the oil filter, the starter, the, whatever. Now that we have the hood off, it's so much easier.
Your fuel filter is located right up here. On the mechanical models from the CK2620 and down, you do have a basic fuel filter and a water drain on the bottom. Something a lot of people don't know about these, because a lot of these tractors share gauge clusters, is this does not actually have a water fuel sensor in it. You can still drain the water, but the tractor is not going to tell you when it needs to be drained. Rule of thumb, I tell people when they come to get these, or even, actually it's just these that have this style filter, or even side-by-sides that take this filter, drain your water fuel separator maybe every other fill up, and you just want to unscrew this little plug on the bottom, and it's going to start to let some water out first.
You don't take it all the way out. It's more of a petcock.
It is. You don't have to take it all the way out. If you suspect that there is a lot of water in it, feel free to. But if it gets to the point where it runs dry, well, now you have no fuel in the canister, and it's going to be fun to start back up. You need to get that plug back in, primer up, get some fuel pressure going.
But generally, you just tweak you just twist the white thing on the bottom, and the water falls out, and when it turns yellow, you close it back up, right?
Yep, because water settles.
Yeah.
Over here too, you have your lift pump that feeds your injection pump. That's your low pressure pump, essentially, your high pressure pump. Your oil fills right here. Your dipstick is conveniently located here. Even with the hood down and even the loader on, your dipstick is accessible, so there's no reason not to check your oil every day.
I love where the oil filter is, because not only is it easy to get to, not only is it easy to get to, when you do an oil change, whether we do it, you do it, whatever, take a paint pen marker and write, 640 hours on it. You can walk by the tractor without even lifting the hood, and, it'll tell you when you last did an oil change.
That's standard practice in our shop. If you folks come in for a service, all your filters get an hour and a date on it, so you know when your stuff was changed, and you don't have to call us to know when something was done. Not that we don't appreciate the calls, but it's in plain sight. You won't forget it.
Cool. One thing I think is funny, and this is like the one thing I know about engines. Diesel engines, or at least the ones we use, they have this little burper thing on the bottom. It's a rubber, it's got a slit at the bottom. They take advantage of a diesel's natural tendency to vibrate, and that is the air cleaner, by the way. It'll vibrate much of the particulate matter to the bottom of the canister, and then driving, it'll just dump dust. It actually helps clean the air filter by itself. Of course, you still need to maintain your air filter, but a lot of the particulate matter just comes off by simple vibration, and that's the ejection port.
Very cool.
Now that's the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If you want to head over to the other side, while we're pointing some stuff out, again, there's no canister here. You got a basic muffler coming off your exhaust manifold to dump out. Your alternator's right here, small belt, simple belt, starter's right down here behind the loader mount. These are about as simple as it can get, and some people do really enjoy and appreciate simplicity. Tried and true, these things never come in except for maintenance.
And the main fuse, the heavy ones coming in are right there, easy to get to.
They are. There's a smaller panel up on the quote-unquote firewall.
Panels, the auxiliaries, the lights and stuff like that.
All your small stuff is located right here. And they do give you
look at that.
a diagram on the inside of the box as to what everything is. And you might knock it if you see it, but I have used it. They even give you a fuse puller.
AKA tweezers.
And spare fuses.
That's
just
cool.
in case.
And they use regular automotive fuses at O'Reilly's or stocks.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. They don't hide anything. They don't try to make things difficult. They don't make a lot of specialty parts. If you have fuses go out and you're in a pinch, head down the street to O'Reilly's. I'm happy to sell you fuses, but it's a fuse.
Yeah, they don't make stuff proprietary just for they're not Apple. They don't just do it to make money. When they use a proprietary part, it's because they feel that it's better served on their machine, not just because.
Yep, there's no Thunderbolt port on this thing.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Now, this one looks different.
This one is very different. Similar, but different. So before looking at a CK2620, what we're looking at here is a CK3520 HSE. H is a hydrostat, SE, honestly, I'll call it the sports edition. I don't know what it stands for. But once you go over that 25 horsepower threshold, you get some changes. Biggest one you can see right away is this big old canister. This is the DPF that is required on anything over 25 horses. Now, a lot of people are scared of this thing, but truth of the matter is, as long as you run your equipment properly, there's nothing to be afraid of with this.
And what is properly?
Properly would be running it hot. And when I say hot, not wide open, but even me, who owns a Kioti DK, I keep my tractor run up to about the 540 mark anywhere I go.
They're made to stretch their legs. That's how they cool themselves. That's how they clean themselves.
And when you're up at that mark, which is usually about the 22 to 2300 RPM mark, which is a safe mark, it does a couple things. One, you get better combustion because now you're running a little hotter. Two, because you're running a little hotter, this thing stays hotter. And with everything running hotter, you're getting less soot from your combustion, which is then less likely to clog this thing up. I wouldn't say I'm an avid farmer by any stretch of the imagination. I run about 150 hours a year on my tractor. And because of how I run it, my tractor only goes through a regeneration maybe once a year.
The engineers at Kioti told me that it's actually more fuel efficient than letting it lope because the higher RPMs mean a more complete burn. Mm-hmm. You're not wasting fuel that's not getting used. These people, they'll say it till they're blue in the face, run them. Don't lope them, run them. They're made to run. It's kind of like a lawnmower. You start a lawnmower, all single-cylinder gasoline engines run at 35 or 3,600 RPMs, all of them. Honda, Briggs, whatever. You wouldn't attempt to go do anything with your lawnmower unless it was open. They're made to run either all the way open or not at all. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, these things are made to be run a certain way. The people that I get calls from that their tractor's regenerating like crazy, these are people who kind of putt around at 15 to 1800 RPMs. You're not getting the best combustion, which is leading to more soot buildup, which means this thing's capturing more soot, which means it's going to regen more.
And it doesn't hurt anything. It just
it doesn't. It's a little bit of a nuisance.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. There's nothing wrong with that per se, but if you want to try to mitigate that as much as possible, run it hot. It wants to be hot.
At a 10-second, 15-second thumbnail of a regen cycle, you mentioned regen cycle. Mm-hmm. What is a regen cycle?
So during a regen cycle, which Kioti tractors can be operated while running a regen, but what's going to happen is the dashboard's going to illuminate a certain light, and you can hit a button to accept the regen cycle. It's going to bump the RPMs up to probably about 2,700 RPMs, put a little bit more fuel in the system to get this thing scorching hot, to burn off any soot, which soot is essentially unburned diesel fuel, out of the system and clean your DPF. Now, you can still operate the tractor while it's running.
They want you to.
Absolutely.
It's designed that way.
And you can still operate it. You might see a slight loss of power, but if that light pops on and it's asking you to do a regen, you don't have to park it and let it do its thing. You can still go ahead and use it. I know there are a couple manufacturers on there that if it tells you to run a regen, you have to park it for that however long it asks you to run it, which there is no set time as to how long the system will run. It's going to run as long as it needs to. And that's because of this sensor right up here with these two little tubes on it. This is a sensor that measures the pressure on each side of the canister Once it comes below a certain level, it'll ask you to, go back to business as normal.
And if you don't, what happens then? If you choose to ignore the, regen while it operates light.
If you choose to ignore it and skip it, then this canister is going to keep clogging up and clogging up and clogging up. I have seen some cases where people have gotten this canister so full, the tractor won't even start. Folks, I know we sound like broken records when we talk about certain topics, but one thing I greatly recommend is to never, ever, ever skip a regeneration. If you're getting ready to shut down for the day and you see that light pop on, don't turn the tractor off. Let it run its cycle, let it come back down to idle, then shut it down. Skipping a regen is the worst thing you can do for your emissions components here.
And it's not like it takes hours. I mean, we're talking
No,
20 minutes maybe, who knows? Like you said, there's no set time.
There is no set time.
But
It'll
it's
run
not
as long as it
hours.
needs to. No, absolutely not. Typically, what I've seen, at least even with my tractor only runs about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Interesting thing about his tractor, he's got a DK. It is the same engine. The camshaft out of this one goes in his. The pistons out of this one go in his. His has a turbocharger because it's anything above 40 horsepower has a turbocharger on it, but it's the same engine all the way up to 60 horsepower. Kioti uses one engine from 35 to 60. It's brilliant because our technicians have to learn one engine. Our parts department has to stock parts for one engine, with the exception of, the turbocharger, like I said, stuff like that. 2 years ago, I took one home because it was fixing to snow really bad, like it is this weekend. And it was a DK, it was a manual transmission, DK 45, back then 4510. And the light came on, and there was a loss of power. I'm no engineer, let's call it 15%, 20%. And you increase the RPMs because it's using a few horsepower to do its deal, and you continue working. And that's the first time that it ever happened to me. And I'm like a little apprehensive. I'm like, well, the guys in the shop said to just put the PTO or put the RPMs back where you had them and go back to work. And that's what I'm going to do. And I plowed snow for another 10 minutes, and then the light went out, and I was able to move the throttle back down slightly. And I'm like, that is no thing.
Well, that's something, sometimes all it needs. Sometimes it just needs that little bump of heat to clear this out to where you don't have to run a full cycle. And if you realize too that your tractor isn't running cycles, that's fine. That means it's running properly. You still have the option to run one yourself if you'd like, just for peace of mind. And you'll notice if you haven't seen that light pop on in 200 hours and you go to run a cycle, one, it might not actually let you, and two, if it does actually run one, it's probably going to run for like 5 to 8 minutes.
Yeah, I've had people tell me that when they bring their tractor out for the first time in the spring, they do that because it gives the tractor a chance to warm up. The hydraulic oil warms up. The battery gets charged. It's just all kind of things, it's taken its first breath for the spring, and why not? And really, why not?
Absolutely. Going over some other key differences with the 35 versus 25 horse. In addition to having the big canister on here now, there is an EGR system with a cooler that's located right here above your starter. And this runs to the back of the block. And if we mosey around to the other side, we can see where it comes back into the intake. This is your EGR valve here. This is the tube coming off that comes back up into here. And again, that might be a little scary for some people to know that it has an EGR on it. EGRs get a real bad notion, but if you're running the tractor properly, you're not going to have as much coming back into the system, and everything will just keep clean. I know I've seen tractors come into the shop that have 700, 800, 900 hours on them, and They run them hot, they run them hard, and just doing some minor inspections, or they come in for something we might have to take this off, you kind of get to look down in there, and there's really minimal carbon buildup. And that's just knowing how to run your tractor. This one does not have a mechanical injection pump. This one has a high pressure injection pump with no lift pump. It runs right off of the gears on the engine behind this gear case, and that pressurizes your fuel system. Once you come up to the top end, your injection pump feeds one line to a fuel rail. And within the fuel rail, you have your 3 branches coming off to each injector. Having the common rail gives a smoother fuel distribution to every injector. These ones are fired electronically, not mechanically like that one. So you do get a much smoother performance from this one. When you start it up in cold weather with barely even running the glow cycle, this thing's gonna start, as long as your fuel's not gelled. Speaking of fuel, we have our fuel filter here. This is a nice stage 5 fuel filter. It has a clear fuel bowl on it, so you can actually see your water buildup. And this one does have a sensor coming out of it, which will indicate on the dash when it needs to be drained. One thing I do recommend is check this every so often. If you're not getting a lot of water in your fuel, that's wonderful. However, you could still have a little bit right down here, and it's not going to be enough to trigger your sensor to tell you to empty the bowl. If you leave this for prolonged periods of time, I've seen in certain instances to where algae can start to build and live in this bowl, and it starts giving a false reading to the sensor, because algae is water-based, and it'll grow and it'll take over and it'll keep throwing a false signal, which if it runs long enough and is throwing your water fuel light and it runs long enough, could actually give you a check engine light. And if it gets to a check engine light point, the tractor is going to derate on you because it's telling you something's wrong and they want you to inspect it. But I have seen that happen to where it's something simple like that. This one's still laid out similarly to the other one. Your oil filter's right down here. Dipstick is accessible even with the hood on and loader in place. Hydraulic pump's right down here. Something we didn't point out on the last one, and if you get a tractor from the factory, they're generally torque marked. We do assemble our tractors in-house. They have our hands on them, which means, you know, we put the tires on, we put the ROPS bars on them, we put the grill girds on, we put the loaders on. But down here, you can see we have these marks on loader bolts. We have them on tires. Those are to indicate a couple things. One, that everything was torqued to spec. Two, if you're out and about and you see that those lines no longer align, something's vibrated loose, and it's a good indicator to maybe grab a wrench, give everything a once over, and move on with your day. Even according to your owner's manual, they do want you to check the lower tire torque specs every 10 hours. I know that's a little excessive, but it keeps bad things from happening. A lot of bad things can be easily prevented with preventative maintenance such as this, such as greasing the tractor, doing your service at the proper intervals.
One thing I think is good, first off, I love the idea of taking the hood off and the loader, because I never get to see them like this, and you do. It gives you a great vantage point. Let's leave these off for a few days in case people want to come in and, you know, you can repeat the whole thing in person.
That's perfectly fine.
Jake showed me something, again, talking about, you know, Kioti's a great company in the fact that they do so much of their own engineering, so much of their own building. These engines, they actually mine their own ore. I mean, they cast their own engines from the ore, from the steel that they made themselves. I mean, they don't mess around. When they do buy a component, because quite simply somebody offers a really good component, for example, the ECM, electronic control module, I had to ask him what that meant. And it is made by Delphi, the satellite people. It used to be part of GM, and they spun it off. And, you know, I'm sure they could have found a cheaper vendor. Well, I think that's a fantastic overview of, the idea at first was just to talk about the difference between one that has the emissions components on it, Tier 4, and one that doesn't. But then we started babbling on about where stuff is located, and I don't know, I think it's quite helpful. Thank you, Jake.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, folks. If you want to learn more, by all means, ask Jake. You wouldn't want to ask me. You could ask me tractors and prices and models and all that stuff, but if you want to know something, that's the guy. Thank you, folks. Oh, and don't forget, you could text us at the same number as our phone number, 615-956-0334, and just say, hey, Jake, hey, Mike, hey, Jim, hey, whoever you want, and you'll get a darn fast response. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.